Hey. What's up? Welcome back.
Basically, all I was saying is, you know, they always say if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. And I do think that is kind of bullshit, right? Because, like, it just turns what you love into work. But you look at these pinball designers like a Jack Danger. Man, you know, well, that's why I was segueing when I was talking to you. Because it's like, you look at him and he's somehow taken what he loves and turned it into a job that doesn't seem to have ground him out yet. You know what I mean? Like, I think you can see the excitement and passion in his work still. Maybe that means I don't love anything as much as Jack Danger loves pinball, or maybe it just means we're all a little bit different.
Well, and it also, ever since he started working at Stern, it seems that his junk has grown significantly. Like
just larger every release. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think pinball seems to attract a very specific subset of people, whether they like to admit it or not. I'm not like overly confident in this, but from what I've witnessed and talked to, like people who get really into many different things, and it changes, such as myself or you. I mean, you have to be into audio, games, like somewhat mechanical engineering, nerd shit, pop culture shit, movies, you know, all the stuff that all of us are kind of into. And I get heavily into stuff like this podcast for like a year and a half, or music, which kind of vacillates, or home theater or video games. But yeah, like if it was just do podcasting for like a living, I don't know if the pay was right, if I got paid what I did as someone who works in technical sales in a software company, I'd probably, actually, yes, I would absolutely love it all the time. But
well, that seems like an upgrade, right? You're going to have a bad day no matter what you do, right?
Yeah.
Not every day is going to be great. No one loves their job every day. But in general, like I'm not saying your current job is a janitor, right? But like if you're a used car salesman and you love pinball seems like an upgrade.
Yeah. An interesting side note, and before we get into X-Men and Avatar and guess welcome to Pinball Party. This is Steve and Joey from the Pinball Party. Zach and Jason, Pinball Party. To the listeners that have listened, it's been a while. Remember, so long ago, I got prescribed Ritalin. Remember this?
Oh yeah, I've been wanting to hear all about this.
And I was hesitant to take it because I was on the borderline for an ADHD med kind of thing, but more so, I've asked for it because I've just like, hey, maybe it'll help. I still never taken it. In fact, what I did instead was quit caffeine 3 weeks ago. Cold turkey, just completely gone. And what that did, first, 10 out of 10, I highly recommend to anyone if you quit caffeine. It's the best once you get over the pure hell of a few days. And I was only on like 150 milligrams a day. And I say like, but I know literally it's about 150 from drinking like 3 cups of half calf, because I'm very sensitive to it. And why I'm very sensitive to it, I have chronic migraines. I've always had them since I was like 5 years old. And there's a strong link between caffeine and migraines. And I hadn't had migraines in a few years, even doing music and all. It was pretty crazy. But guess what fucking came back after quitting caffeine? It's like, the headaches, yes, like withdrawal headaches for a few days, and it's very different. Like headaches are like, that's just pussy shit to me. But then after a week, my old migraines came back permanently for a while, and I had to go through this. They're still kind of here, which is weird. So I'm kind of weighing the pros and cons. I want to try to make it like 2 months without caffeine to see like, is my body still regulating what the hell is happening and what I'm sensing in my head? Because pain from migraines is fake pain. So you kind of, it's like, it's psychosocial. Psychosocial is not the right word. It's
psychosomatic.
There you go. A lot of it's in my head. Anyway, so that's where I'm at. And I noticed so many changes with like excitement for things without caffeine. Everything's much more even keel, as one would expect. So that's kind of my spoiler alert for this episode, X-Men Avatar. maybe sprinkle in a little PS5 Pro talk of like, eh. What do you want to start with? You want to start with X-Men?
As a heavily caffeinated person,
yeah.
I feel like, yeah, I think X-Men, if we go chronologically, it was released first. And I do, I know we were talking about this, but I do feel like Stern did kind of eat JJP's lunch, right? Like getting out ahead of Avatar, these two are going to be connected, right? Like you're going to compare them against each other. It's just human nature. It's two games coming out roughly right around the same time. One of them costs significantly more than the other one. And so it's going to be tough, right? So I think when we're talking about X-Men, I think we can probably break it out into like a couple, depends on if you want to break it out into categories or if you want to break it out into impressions, like pre gameplay impressions and post gameplay impressions. What's your take here?
Well, I think to level set where we are at, we've seen the reveal from like a week ago. We were going to record them, but they're like, hey, we don't have any details, so like, let's wait. There's the reveal, and then there was just last night, big junk live stream of X-Men, and then today was the 18-minute video from Jersey Jack, so we got a little more. And another side note, thank you, Jersey Jack, for the invite to come on site and see Avatar tomorrow, but it was literally the only day of the entire year I would not be able to make, same thing. They offer, all expenses paid. Come on, look, come see the game and do all that. Amazing. But it's my wife's 40th birthday tomorrow. Surprise thing, all that. Bunch of friends coming out of town. Literally couldn't make it. So thank you for the invite. I had to pass, but I know there's some other pinball media people on site on the 13th to see the game and play it more. That being said, we just saw that 18-minute video, and we have some opinions on the overall themes of both and gameplay, at least, of X-Men. So that's where we're at. I would like to not go categories. I say we just start hitting X-Men from, I like the way you put it, before and after gameplay reveal.
And I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think everybody wants good pinball companies to succeed. I think, Stern, they make good games. JJP, it's a lot of really passionate people, and they make some cool products. So, I mean, nothing is negative or personal if you have any negative opinions. But like when these games come out, I mean, there's like new podcasters every day, right? There's 12 new guys. It feels like every month.
I think
and
so.
Everybody, when a new game comes out, everybody has something out in a half an hour. And I think that at the very least, it's given us probably some more time to digest maybe, like how you feel about it, what's happening, like those kinds of things. So yeah, I think just kind of start and hit the ground running. I don't know if you want to start with your immediate X-Men impression.
My immediate X-Men impression, theme-wise, awesome. I like X-Men. I didn't read the comics a lot growing up. My wife actually did. The Jim Lee run in the 90s specifically, but I'm very well versed, I should say. I did read a lot of DC stuff, so, X-Men adjacent, but whatever. This isn't like, look at my patch of, like, I'm justified. I fucking like X-Men, whatever. We all do. A lot of us do. So theme, great. It's not A tier like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, but it's a non-issue. Knowing that it was going to be Jack Danger, Foo Fighters being one of my favorites and one of yours as well. Okay, we got a lot of good stuff lining up for it. And I was waiting for kind of that boost to the pinball, whatever's happening right now, which is kind of not a malaise, but a downshift in the market, which it should, just like supply and demand should, but also, and the summer months. And the last game that came out really was John Wick, which not great. And it's just been kind of a slow burn down. Still haven't had any games. I don't own anything now. I haven't been doing my old buying and selling and that crazy shit. So waiting for that. The reveal, it's like, oh, here's all the disclaimers. This is nothing against anyone. But here we go. The reveal for me was I liked the reveals as like a media thing. The 5-minute video was great, and all the information puke was great. I think they did a fantastic job. I liked seeing the game and all that. I'm not a huge fan of the flipper layout thing, the non-Italian bottom, as they say, this danger room thing. Anything off center like that kind of throws me for a loop. So my first impressions were like, oh, the art looks great. The video's great. It's Jack Dangerous, so probably great. Look at all the crazy shots, at least from that video. Like, that looks like Foo Fighters style, where it's all over the place in a good way. Hidden shots that go through weird alleys and some cool feeling of physics. And I text you right away, like, I wonder what that off center feels like. For me, whenever you mess with the very simple nature of something, like if you strip down pinball to like a relatively recent game in its bare form, like Black Knight Sword of Rage, where it's just like, this is just 2 flippers, it's right here, there's not much to it, but like, have fun. That's a good test of like, do I like it? Like, I like shooting that game, even though the rules are pretty shallow or all that. Like, they got the controls right, it feels snappy, nothing's weird. You go to something like Spooky, and something kind of feels off, like the way the flippers are, or old school Jersey Jack pre-Elton John. Flippers feel a little soft. If you get those basics wrong, everything else is like, well, that's that. So I'm not going to say that the offset to the right is like a negative, but it could be. To me, it's a potential, like, I might not like the way that feels. We'll see. Yeah.
It's a standard flipper gap. I'm not as worried about that as you, because I guess I like some of the classics that are a little bit weird. And this, immediately I was trying to figure out what game this reminded me of. I started flipping through old games until
nice pun
found Goldwing again, and I was like, oh, okay. And I was like,
okay,
nice. Yeah. And so I don't have a problem with that part of it, but I do think, as far as the theme, you kind of mentioned X-Men. We're the right age for this.
Yeah.
And I mean that, like, when you're comparing directly, like, let's say 2 themes like X-Men and Avatar, and I've heard some of the pinball community feel like they're basically the same. And I would very much disagree with that. X-Men's been around a lot longer and has, one of those qualities where it's not exactly like Godzilla, but it's like a Godzilla. You can like Godzilla without ever having seen a Godzilla movie, just because it's kind of like a part of the pop culture zeitgeist in its entirety. If you just think about X-Men when we were young, you had the comics, which were huge, right? Because there were so many huge name people doing them at the time. Like you mentioned, Jim Lee, or, McFarlane was at Marvel doing Spider-Man, and Liefeld, the creation of, Deadpool, all of those things kind of happening in the late 80s, early 90s. But then just all the other stuff, the X-Men Capcom fighting, like beat 'em up game, the TV show.
That's what we were talking about. If they would have made this Marvel versus Capcom, holy shit. Man.
Well, I mean, Marvel versus Capcom, first off, all the Marvel fighting games were just so phenomenal in the 90s, and just unbelievable. But even that X-Men side-scrolling beat 'em up, like Turtles in Time, or whatever your
Children of the Atom
is. Children of the Atom. They're all phenomenal, but it buoys this theme so much higher than I read X-Men books, or like, I like the new movies with Hugh Jackman. I feel like it just has a place in just pop culture. And more than that, they picked a very iconic storyline, Days of Future Past, that exists in the first comic, which I think is 81, I think. And then is also on the cartoon TV show. It's in the movie, right? The movies with the live action movies. This is a storyline that just keeps getting retold because people love it. So I think the theme is stronger than people think, even if it's not a home run. I would still rate it kind of a, I love X-Men, right? I mean, this is aimed at me, but I would say if I was going to rate it objectively, I'd still say it's like a medium,
medium
like,
plus.
Yeah, medium plus. It's not Avengers Infinity Quest where you just don't care.
Well, they missed the ball. Fuck. That came out when Avengers, I mean, Marvel's still hot. If they would have done like Avengers, not
Endgame, if it was a real
Wow.
Like,
yeah, I know.
A real like Avengers, not like a weird. I mean, we can directly compare these two games because it's easy to do. But like, I also the art, just I get it's the same artist, and I love Zombie Yeti, but I don't get the Avengers Infinity Quest art.
No, I don't want to talk about Avengers because it's just bad.
Yeah, we don't need to get too into that. We'll try to stick to our guns here on this. Just, shots and layout. Where are you at? What do you think?
Well, yeah, let's just forego the like before and after gameplay reveal because I think there's too much to talk about.
It is. We're getting into the weeds. We're really
Good point about like X-Men, being in the pop culture full stop, just like Darth Vader or Batman. Some people are just like, well, you just know it, like whatever.
You just know it. My favorite thing, just as a foreshadow of my take on Avatar, one of my favorite things to do a decade ago, pre-Avatar 2 coming out, when people would talk about Avatar, was I would ask them to name one character in the movie. and like, it's impossible for most normal people. I get it's the highest grossing movie ever, right? And Avatar 2 grossed a ton of money as well.
The first one?
Yeah, they're massively successful movies.
But like, I like them.
Normal people can't name a character in the movie, or even past that. Like I also one time printed out, like I got into a real thick debate with someone that it's left no cultural like stamp on society. I like took photos of a bunch of actors and asked them who was in the movie, and like nobody could pick the main character because it's just like Guy, right?
It is Guy. I do have a strong feeling about Avatar in more of a positive way about the theme. We'll do that later. X-Men.
We'll get into it.
Yeah. X-Men. I got to take this pinball media hat, somewhat know people via social media. I'm not fucking impressed. I guess is what I'm getting at. Now, this is is the game going to be great? Could be, once it's code 1.0 and I play all that. Yes, of course. That being said, like when it's fully done, yes, I guess this opinion is more from a state of we're in a slump so much that I've stopped podcasting for a while. Don't own any games. The prices are going down across the board. People are very hesitant at buying, as they should be. The market outside of pinball is very hesitant at like everything. So in a hobby that is, I fucking love it. Like, again, obviously enough to do a podcast about it. I want it to succeed. Looking for that, that jolt of like, oh my God, that's where I'm coming from. I'm not coming from like, pinball is in a super hot market. We all have infinite money. We all get 10 games in our house. How does this rate? Like, I'm in the like, can I justify losing? You buy a pro for about $7,000 or a premium for 9.5. These days, minimum $1,000 on every game across the board. The hottest stuff: Godzilla, Jurassic Park, Jaws, Foo Fighters, anything, you name it. You will lose $1,000.
Outlier, just that one single outlier of Jaws LE, which doesn't make sense to me, doesn't seem to be getting hit as hard, and I don't know why. Maybe it'll just take longer. But
I miss Jaws. We'll talk about that later, I guess, or we'll get it in. I miss Jaws, but I think that's the last game I owned was a Walking
to your
Dead.
Point. I get where you're coming from. You want to be excited, right? You want to be wowed, and if it doesn't do it for you, you can't make yourself excited about something.
No. And so that's where I'm at. I'm not like, oh, this game sucks. That's not it. I don't think this is doing what I was hoping it would do, which was pick that apart a little bit. If that off-center shot and the danger room stuff to the left, if that all pans out and it's a non-issue, like messing with kind of the basics of it, and I don't like center posts in general either. That's just my thing. Nothing against the design. Well, I guess maybe I just don't like center posts. If that is not an issue, great. If it is, shit, that sucks. Seeing the stream did not alleviate any of my concerns of a couple of the shots looked awesome. Like that left orbity kind of thing that almost figure eights back around to the ramp looks great. The shot into the danger room looks super smooth. It comes back. It looks great when it worked. I noticed a lot of clunk. The busy play field that looks like, from an art standpoint, not a knock against the artist, just like these are just very nitpicky things, and a stream, which is not the way to test out a pinball machine. So again, I could put my hands on it and be like, I love this game. You know, could be that way. But from afar, I shut the stream off after about 10 minutes because I'm like, well, the call outs, especially from Gambit, wow, bad. The music did not seem to fit. Like
not at all. We were talking about that. I didn't get it. I didn't have as much of a problem with the lounge music that you were talking about. It felt kind of like almost like it had this chill out synth-ish.
Yeah, which does not fit X-Men to me.
I think they're just going for a low energy, like you're not in a mode kind of thing. The music that stood out more abrasive to me was some of the more guitar actiony stuff. I think they're trying to get it to meld with the X-Men cartoon theme music, which is like an all-timer.
Oh yeah.
And I don't think it didn't feel like it matched to me, right? Like it didn't seem like it would be on the same album, right?
That was my feeling, yeah. Even so, it didn't fit, but the little snippets of awesome. But man, when I heard Gambit's voice, I thought it was someone making fun of it. Like, what? Oh, that's real. The couple of the call outs, again, nitpicking. That's all this is. All I can do from afar. The stream did not do it any favors. And I was sure enough, because I didn't go into it with a negative mindset. I went into it like, oh my God, the guy who made Foo Fighters, who loves pinball, he's going to put 1,000,000% into this. This is going to blow my mind. And like, you know, it starts and the costumes and the big dick and all the big junk, all that kind of shit. I'm like, all right. And then it starts and I'm like, just like the air left out of a balloon, like, oh man, none of this.
And you've been listening to me for days now, where I've been saying, I honestly, I can separate my opinions pretty well into different categories, right? Like it comes from being in, having a lot of different jobs, right? Where I did sales and management, all these, so you can separate different opinions. Sure. Like I want to see a gameplay stream personally, but from a business perspective, I immediately said, I don't think I would do it until I sold every LE, because there's nothing to gain from them. It will only be negative, because we both know that the code is going to be number irrelevant, 50% done. Whenever they show these streams, there's very few call outs. They're very repetitive. They're sometimes not very good. And don't make it to, like, if you look at like Foo Fighters, right? And you look at, I haven't watched the original stream for that, but you know that the call outs and everything are going to be astronomically different than the final version. So the streams don't do as much positive as you'd think. I find it, from a sales perspective, I don't think they're going to convince anyone to buy the game that hadn't already convinced themselves. And I think the only way you can go is down. That doesn't mean I don't want them to stop. I want them to stop. I actually like watching them and like seeing it. But I do think it's a net negative.
And I think one of the biggest problems of this specific scenario is what I'm also saying of, I want to play it. Literally, we all do. We want to play it. It's not a video game where like you can 1-to-1 watch a stream and be like, oh, I can 90% see how I'll be playing this game. It's a lot about the feel, and like even your perspective physically to the game in real life is like, it's such a huge difference. So the problem is, for me to want to experience a game, well, how do I do that then? There's no demos. I can't drive 10 minutes to play this game. So when it comes out, I'll be like, all right, well, do I care enough to drive, a 3-hour round trip to play a pinball game for a couple minutes? That's where I'm at. Or to pay $1,000 to own a game for a little while. That's the bar that they're up against. And they know that from looking at the used market for anyone that's not around a location. And I'm not even in a unpopulated area, but a place that just doesn't get every new game. So it's, I
think at the volume they need to sell them at, right, to maintain these facilities they've created and the amount of employees they have, I think that they do need to sell some to some people in your situation, and they need to exist,
Yes.
on the secondary market to kind of change hands. So I think they're in a real tough situation there, because I know we've talked about this, but I don't suspect John Wick is going to be very common. I
No.
can't imagine anyone's going to buy a new Venom,
Come on.
at this point. So it's like
No.
they do need to hit some kind of critical mass with these kinds of things to get them out into the wild and keep people interested in pinball, right? Like ultimately the goal, there's space concerns, there's monetary concerns, but also you're trying to just keep just the game of pinball moving. And I think that, just to we'll try and I guess pretend to be Crossfire here or something, but I'm very contrarian on this, because I think the game looks phenomenal. I do think that you bring up some points, but I can kind of hand wave them away to a certain degree, because Jack Danger's favorite game is Deadpool, and every game you see a little bit of Deadpool in it.
Yeah.
That left kind of turnaround shot that goes across the playfield, comes back down underneath the flipper and over into the danger room, kind of like a Flintstones or something.
Sure.
That reminds me a lot of the Deadpool lock shot. And it always brings me back to playing Deadpool the first time, when I played Deadpool when it was brand new and there was no rules in that game, just nothing. And every shot felt horrible.
Yeah, clunk fest.
It was a clunk fest. The Colossus turnaround shot I was like, what is that? That doesn't do anything. Because I don't think it did anything. It just felt awful. And I hit a bar and it didn't move around in there. And I think that that's the gameplay problem, is that a lot of this is very unique. And we were talking about this the other day, because I hadn't played Foo Fighters in a little while, because I've been busy, a lot of stuff going on. And when I've been playing pinball, it tends to have been more Jaws and a little bit of Star Wars. And so I went back and I was playing some Foo Fighters the other night, and it just beat me down mercilessly. I couldn't find any of the things exactly. Everything was a little off. And I think that is, it's that dichotomy, right? It's those are opposing forces. You want different, but different is different. And that's a dumb statement, but it's true. I own a Game of Thrones, and what Game of Thrones is amazing. It is a phenomenal game, but at the end of the day, similar to like a Black Knight Sword of Rage, or Star Trek, right? Go to all these big classic Steve Ritchie's. The shots are all exactly where you expect them to be. And it means that you can just play it and it just happens.
I don't not want this to be different. I'm glad it's different. It's the sticking point of if that off center thing is a non-issue, then it's a non-issue.
Yeah, totally.
It's the I'm sad for. Yeah, I think it's sad for the fact that it's all so early of what they're up against is still that thing. To beat it more to death or something. They're up against a market that doesn't have money left to people are gonna be very cautious. It has to blow you away. So to come out with hey, here's this thing that the animation is kind of like Avengers, which you didn't really like. The callouts are well, it's all subjective. The art, the art's great. I think the art's great.
I think the art's good.
It's to experience this game, watching the center post in the stream was it never really was a value. It just looked clunky. It didn't really look great. There was no clear indication of how the modes really work. I could take an hour and analyze everything and do the work for me. If you're marketing this game, explain why someone would want to spend $9,500 and then hopefully sell it when they're done and lose $1,000. Sell me on that. It's not just trust us, it's going to be great at some point.
It's an interesting point you bring up, because you have Sharp in his Wolverine costume with the claws, and he probably can't see doing his old thing.
Yeah, I get all that, but that was
Jack,
that was stupid.
But I'm saying Jack Danger's got his slippery gloves on, but it makes them not good at pinball, right?
Take it off then.
I guess Nick is there and he's good, but I'm just saying that it just brings me back mentally to when I really wanted an Alice Cooper's Nightmare Castle, right? Which a game I think is fine. at best right now, right? Like it has problems, but I
Yeah.
like some things about it. But the reason I really wanted it quite a bit back in the day was I played it with Bo and Karen's at what must have been Expo or TPF or something
Okay.
back in the day. And, so first off, Bowen's a great player, but he also did the rules for that game and we were playing it together and he blew it up and he made it look so easy and effortless and got to see a whole bunch that was there. And it just immediately drew me in. And I don't think you get that when the people trying to show you the game can't play it.
True. And that's definitely part of it. But I don't think that's as big of an issue as it could be where like seeing the ball physics, like doing
we're
certain
arguing
things.
about marketing here, right? Like I get that it has to be fun and exciting.
Yes. And I think it's a good call, but I mean, to put an excuse of like, oh, I don't like it because they're they weren't playing that well. Like, nah, I've played enough pinball to like know, like, I don't think that is great. You know what I mean?
Well, I guess, I mean, to kind of keep it moving, because I mean, we could probably talk about X-Men for another hour. My take on it is, I really like the look of this game. I think Jack Danger killed it. I love how different it looks. I love the non-Italian bottom. I don't want that every time, right? But like, I think it's all meaningful. I think the danger room, I think a mini flipper is dangerous, right? Mini flipper is dangerous. You got to use them correctly. You got to use them sparingly and not fuck it up. And it looks really smooth and fun and engaging. I'm excited to figure out what the hell that target does below the mini flipper that you can't hit. I don't know what that does. Okay. But I will say I am very excited to play this game. I'm sure I'll own one. I think it does look like a phenomenal game, but I don't see a ton of value in the premium, and that's not a negative. I'm going to put that in the positive category because
I agree.
I was looking for a great pro. I think this pro delivers everything that you'd want out of this game. If you're excited, I think the pro should have you very excited. And I think that's pretty good for people right now because the pro isn't 10 grand, right? Like, I think that's exciting. But to your point, I think space and money are going to be limited from here on out for forever. And I think that is going to be tough. It's just going to be tough from this point out. So that's kind of like my tie it all together thing, because we could break down all the shots. But like I think that the premium stuff is cool with the Sentinel hands, but I don't like that type of stuff in Godzilla with the bridge. Yeah, I put it in that category. It gets old. It's not doing it for me in the way that I need it. I don't even understand what the Sentinel head does while it's down. So like,
I don't think it. My wrap up on it. Not doing the shot by shot and all that. Going almost backwards. I agree that like the pro, aside from the finger flicking it back on the ramp, which the pro does not have.
I like that one.
Yeah, everything else is like, it's fine. I think a pro will be great. I had the stream up. I have it in the background just as like reference while watching this. And like every time the center post, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't save the ball. I know that's not, it could be the stream, it could be whatever, but that's my experience with center posts in the past. So why I don't like them is because every time I try to rely on them, they're not satisfying to me. Some people love them. I'm just not a center post guy. It's a small thing. I wish it would have wowed me. And that was where I thought it was going to. That being said, the things that I do like, I like the themes still a lot. I like X-Men a lot. I like the possibility that the off-center non-Italian bottom like doesn't bother me and is in fact a net positive, because that could totally be true. I do like other playfields. Like I like upper playfields when they're done right. I like Jaws. I like Foo Fighters. This Danger Room thing. It seems like the ramp that goes back to the left flipper is consistent enough, so that has me tentatively excited. I think the art is actually, I know I've said it, but it's phenomenal. I like the layout.
It's really good.
Yeah, the layout of everything is great. The bones, as they say, are there for like a simple mode-based game with multi-balls and a lot of Jack Danger type of cool shots. I am not like, I have a feeling, and I've had a feeling for a long time, that Metallica is going to be the one that I'm suddenly like, fuck yeah. just because of Spike 3. I've always liked Metallica and wanted a reason to have one beyond like just make it stereo, you know, as long as they don't mess with it too much. I'm more excited for Metallica than X-Men currently, but X-Men looks loaded as shit as far as like shots and like stuff in it. The code, I don't know. We've only seen one stream. The pro stream, I bet they'll take some of the criticisms that, you know, people are saying on Pinside, which is echoing very similar to what I'm saying. Maybe they'll take a little more time to explain it.
I don't currently understand the code or the rules at all because I didn't bother trying to figure them out and they didn't really talk about them.
Right.
But to your point, you know, I do love the art. I'm probably the market for this theme. And
oh, I forgot my favorite thing about it.
Oh,
and
yeah,
was the sound effects of when you hit the Sentinel's head. I think that sound is awesome.
I think it's really good. I think I'm very optimistic of the rules because I really like the rules for Foo Fighters, and I like so I think they'll get it right. And combine that with the fact that I do love the story of Days of Future Past, so I think that I'll be engaged with the story. Right. Like I think people, they undersell that. Right. Because like I didn't, if you think about games you just don't care about, sometimes you just don't connect with the missions, just become missions and they're not like, they have no narrative pull to you at all. And sometimes if you really like a theme, you're more engaged some way emotionally with that mission.
Absolutely. And I think, well, somehow I'll find a way to segue this into Avatar. One of the most things I loved about Lord of the Rings was that like some of the modes
that's
are
a great
so
example,
akin to the actual movie. And
well,
it was
you care
also
about destroying the ring, right? Like,
yes. Yeah. And even some of the other modes, escaping the ring wraith, all that. And it was one of the biggest misses they did with Star Wars, which is you have this opportunity to play as like, you know, Luke Skywalker training to be a Jedi or fighting Darth Vader in like a lightsaber mode that's actually not Obi-Wan versus Darth Vader. Like, what are you doing? Like, look, why wouldn't you do what people want, which is, you know, be Han Solo, do some scoundrel shit, be Luke Skywalker, train as a, you know, like big miss. But yeah, they could do it great in here. They could do it great in The Matrix or when they, you know, Harry Potter, that kind of thing where people actually give a shit. And Avatar, for those that do give a shit, which is, I don't think it could be as many, you know, I'll say this about Avatar. If it's just what I guess this podcast, maybe we'll just call it X-Men versus Avatar. Avatar from not a judging on how did you do the marketing, but from what I've seen so far, regardless of price, Avatar has me way more excited because I like movies in general. So, you know, I like both Avatar movies. I'm not blown away. Of course, I was blown away by the 3D of the first one. It was an experience, just like, you know, seeing Jurassic Park in the theater. It's just like one of those things, you know, it was awesome. I haven't watched Avatar maybe more than that, maybe a half time other than the theater, you know, back in the day. But I do love the fact that it is known and it is one of the most, it's weird to say. It's one of the most popular movie franchises, kind of. So it reminds me of just film in general.
Do you know the main character's name?
No, of course not. No, I don't. Well, I know Sigourney Weaver's in it.
Well, it's one of those weird situations where like we are both AV guys, right?
Yeah.
And these movies, I think they're, first off, it's James Cameron, and he is really good at making things look and sound good, right? Like that's his thing. And Avatar 1 and 2 are both kind of like AV porn, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Like they look gorgeous and they sound gorgeous and the music is great.
And they remind me of just film in general.
They do. I think they have a film quality to them in the sense that they really are experience. It's like a theme ride. Yeah. I'd say that the problem is
it's still Avatar.
It's still Avatar, right? It's like the plot just isn't. It's kind of like a James Cameron like a best of or like a remix, right? Because you get those like the mech suits like from Aliens. You get, you know, it's kind of like taking little components of all these other things he does, but then making it dumber. And I just don't
Yeah,
think
Avatar
it just
is
keeps
dumb.
getting dumber.
It's
I think
so dumb. Cringe.
when I was in the theater watching, I know we're off on a minor tangent here, but when I was in the theater watching Avatar 1, and I watch a lot of movies like you, right? And they're talking about like I don't even remember now. It's all like a vague memory. I haven't watched Avatar in forever, but that like animal, and they're shooting it and they're like, oh, that animal's bulletproof. And I was like, mental check note 1, bulletproof animal. I'm like, it's just like, it's by the numbers. It's like a paint by the numbers movie, and that's fine. But it's like, that's not doing it for me.
Yeah, the theme, aside from it reminding me of just the film going experience and movies,
we talk about movies that you love watching, right? And I know what movies you love to watch. When we're talking about, yeah, exactly. Like you want to watch them on a new, I just got an 83-inch OLED, right? And like we have speakers and all this stuff. And we start talking, you're like, oh, what do you watch? Well, I'm watching, The Martian, or, something Ridley Scott, just looks phenomenal. Yep. Never in any of our conversations did any of us ever say, did you watch Avatar?
No, nor will it ever come up. Like, oh man,
it's never going to happen. It's
Avatar, which is, I think it's similar in like, it's not a like, oh yuck, it's Avatar. It's just it's only Avatar.
It's Avatar. Okay. If you gave me like, I don't know, like an Avatar t-shirt, I'd be like, oh, well,
I wouldn't wear it.
Thank you. and then I would, like I wouldn't throw it away in front of you.
No, but I'd throw it away.
But like, it wouldn't be in my house any longer. Right.
Speaking of, so what they're asking is, well, would you put this in your house for $12,000? Get the fuck out of here. Of course not. No.
And this is that weird thing where I always want JJP to succeed, but it's like,
what are you doing?
Can someone please, and maybe this will be, look, there's a world where this game is so unbelievably good.
It looks good.
And then the theme is so unoffensive that it crushes it. Similar to like Pirates of the Caribbean. Nobody cares about Pirates of the Caribbean as a theme. No one.
I like it better than this, though. That's for sure.
I do too, but that's because it's pirates, right? It's like
it's also like a film thing. It's another one of those.
Yeah, there's a subgenre there, I guess, is what I'm saying. Something to buoy it a little bit. But
sure.
I'm just saying, like, it's at least unoffensive enough where maybe the game is so good, people are just like, I don't know if you can do that. I don't know if you can do that with $12,000. You can do that with like Black Knight Sword of Rage, or like Game of Thrones, or some of these where like the game trumps the theme. But it's $12,000. That seems like what Elton John is. People say the game's awesome. Like it's $12,000. It's too expensive.
What are you doing?
What it is. My problem with Elton John is just the price, right? Like,
and Avatar.
Same with Avatar, right? Like I looked at, we watched the thing today. I'm trying to process it, and it is what I expected. A lot of like bioluminescent type of stuff, trying to build into that world of Pandora. The music is awesome. Phenomenal.
Yeah.
I really, the vibe here is phenomenal. They're killing the vibe.
Yes.
But then I look at it, that next step, and I'm like, man, is there mechanical toys in this thing? Like, not that I need that. I am not the mechanical toy guy, but I think like if you're trying to make me buy a CE, and that's like what, 15K?
Yeah.
Shouldn't something like do something to the ball? Like, why are you telling me about a robot where its arm moves up and down? Does his arm touch the ball?
No.
Like, why is it? What is happening here? And then who told them that people like lower playfields? Who told them that?
Well, I don't mind them, but I was just about to say that first lower playfield, you're not doing anything. You're just seeing it bounce a ball around and then go to the lower playfield.
What lower playfield do you like?
Big Lebowski.
Okay, that is like the
Congo?
one acceptable answer. Congo's awful, dude. Get the fuck out of here.
I'm just saying.
Get out of here. No, you don't like Congo. There's no way you fucking like the lower playfield of Congo.
To be fair, I've only gotten to the lower playfield in Congo a couple times, and each time I'm like, yeah, it's cool. If I owned it, I'd probably hate it. But
imagine you own it and you had to do it every time, every game. You have to do that lower playfield. There's the equivalent of like shaking one of those ice cream balls, right? Or like it's because there's no skill there. It's just like just shake that thing, just shake it.
They're so rare that for me they're still novel. So like a lower playfield, but in the Avatar one, it looks. I like that they're using a smaller ball. That's cool. I don't technically like it in Family Guy, but it's kind of like, oh, it should work, right? And then you do it and like it doesn't feel right. But
you're hitting all of my things I hate right now. Like,
well, Avatar.
Like, but smaller balls, like the smaller, like oh fuck off. Like what? Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be weird, and it's going to be $12,000. Or if you want 3 UV colors, it's $15,000. The thing of this is the game looks awesome. The UV looks awesome. They put a lot of thought into a lot of lights, cinematics all over the place. It's going to sound like $1 million, and you're like, fuck yeah, I love this game. And then 2 things happen. You find out that it's $12,000, and you look up and it says Avatar. You're like, well, what the fuck? I'm not going to. No. If this was like A+ on the video, A+ on the marketing, probably A+ on like the build quality and the lights, it's probably going to play. It's going to be like a little, amusement park. Imagine if what they just did and you looked up and it said fucking Star Wars or it said Harry Potter. Then yes, then it's like, all right, I'm going to give you a stupid amount of money.
I think we can go one further. I think this is if this was $9,500. Let's go back in time a tiny bit.
Oh,
Game of Thrones, right? Or not Game of Thrones, Guns N' Roses, right? The Guns N' Roses pricing. Let's say they had a model that was, $9,500, and they had a standard, what they did for Wonka and all of those games. Let's say they had a standard edition, and it was
what was the standard Wonka back then?
I want to say they were like $7,500 or something like that.
Wow,
off the top of my head. They were a good price. They were very reasonable. And you took out, well, in for personal preference, let's say you took out the lower play fields. I'd buy one, probably.
9,500 no lower play fields?
I think I'm saying the old standard pricing. Let's say it's like $8,000 and there's no lower play fields. I'm probably seriously looking at this.
I'm very much considering it. Yeah, it's impressive.
Yeah, I like it. It's a real option because I think that they're doing so much right. Their animations are stellar. The music is good. I don't like the sound effects in some of the recent games. They sound like a casino to me, and I don't love it.
Yeah.
But they do so much right, and then they hit you with these themes that either you hate or you don't care about.
Why do they keep doing that? What?
And then they're so expensive. It's $15,000 for the CE, which has the cool 3-color UV ink because they're doing a Stranger Things thing here.
Yep.
And I'm never paying you $15K for this.
Never.
I say this as a person who currently owns, do I own six pinball machines, 7 pinball machines? I don't know. I own pinball machines. I've owned as many as 8. I've owned a ton and bought a lot new, and I would never give them $15,000 for this game.
Never. No. If you looked up and this said, if this said Empire Strikes Back, people would just be like, yeah, it sold out in 10 seconds. All the CEs gone. Easily. If you looked up and said Harry Potter, be like, I'm going to give you $16,000. That's how fucking bad I want this game. Now let me throw something at you.
Yeah.
Same everything, what we just saw. Don't change shit, but the only thing you change is flip the themes. So
this is X-Men?
Just flip everything. So, Stern does their big reveal, here's this game, and it's Avatar. But it's it's Jack Danger doing Avatar. But then here's Jersey Jack. Come out with this. I would say if what Jersey Jack just showed and it was X-Men, I'd be like, I would actually think about it. Because that's fucking X-Men with Jersey Jack. Imagine how much they would not fuck up all the animations, all the video. It would sound incredible. I don't know. I think, what do you think?
It's an interesting, just like hypothetical, because I think X-Men would immediately be one of the best themes that they've had, right? Like, I guess it's tricky because Hobbit should have been a good theme. You can't
That
blame
game's so
them
bad, though.
for
It's
that, right? I don't like the game, but I'm
so
saying it should have
floaty.
been a good theme.
It was a good theme.
Lord of the Rings was huge. I don't love the movies, and I consider myself
No, the movies
a
are
Lord
bad,
of the Rings guy.
but it's a horrible trilogy of movies, but it's still it still gives you the feels.
I think Guns N' Roses is like a decent theme. It's like a good theme, but like the game, I just do not like the game. Like the multi-ball. By the way, did you catch that this only has, I think, like 2 or 3 multi-balls?
Both of these games only have 2 multi-balls.
But for Jersey Jack, that's
oh right,
insane.
They did make sure to mention that, like not 7 multi-balls, just 2.
And that's a huge deal, because the thing that I hate the most about most Jersey Jack games is like the non-stop multi-ball stacking. And I don't want to always be in multi-ball. Like, I say that in a weird way, right? Like, you do, but you want to feel like you earned it.
Yeah. Okay. While you're saying this, I'm watching the X-Men stream still, and they're currently in multi-ball. And I'm wondering, and I feel like I won't like it, the anxiety of staging the left ball with the left flipper and still flipping in the danger room. Like,
you say that, but like, I think multi-ball gets significantly harder in Keith Elwin and Jack Danger games. Like, if you think about multi-ball in, Jurassic Park,
it is
Godzilla. It's gnarly, very difficult, hitting the upper right orbit shot on Jurassic Park while you're cradling up. That is what makes those games good. It builds tension. Right. And I think that you need some of that tension to make a good game great. And that does build for those moments. It's like a center post. I don't love a center post. Right. I agree with you to some degree, but I think if you can get that moment where you're having a great game and you save a ball with the center post, you're going to feel good. It's going to have that immediate feel good moment. And I feel like that's easier to do in single ball play. And some sparing multi-ball. And I feel like a lot of JJP games, you get stuck where you're just in multi-ball all the time, all save, always running, just trying to grind through endless code. And I don't like it.
I hope that Avatar continues the tradition of not mushy flippers, if that's the roundabout way to say it, to just like Elton John fixed it.
Yeah, I think everybody didn't like the way that JJP's really felt. So I'm good for them. I don't think everybody thinks that like you're a Stern guy or a JJP guy. I don't know. I'm a pinball guy. I'd love for JJP to make a game that I felt like I had to buy from them. I think the price is definitely a factor for me because these prices are so high and I don't care enough about their games they're making. But that changes when they hit you, just like like shot to the heart, right? Like they just like, they nail it, like they're like, hey, Jason, what about a Bon Jovi pin? And you're like,
like, take my money, bitch.
Young Guns 2. Oh man.
Young Guns 2.
But just being serious, like, they come out and they hit you with something. It's like Big Lebowski. That's the perfect example of a pin, right? Is it still good by today's standards? Exactly. It's not very modern. It's very dated. It's very simplistic. It has that Bally Williams feel, but like that theme is so strong. It's like or Pulp Fiction, right?
Yeah.
The game, I think the game's fine. I've played Pulp Fiction a decent amount, and it's a TNA thing, and I do like what it's doing, but that theme is it. The theme is insane. And it's making you love that game way more than you would if it was Avatar.
The theme is definitely it. Going back to... Yeah,
it's weird. Oh, no, I'm just saying, like, it's weird. If JJP hit you with I don't know what it would be. For you, it would be the Matrix, for sure.
Yeah, come on.
And if they hit me with something, I don't know what it would be. Maybe Fifth Element. Maybe then I'm an idiot.
Sure. Man, I can't believe that still has the hold over most people. I like Fifth Element, but I don't love it.
Dude, I don't get you. For being an AV guy,
Yeah,
Fifth
that's
Element
the thing.
should hate
I think that's the point. That's the point. On all the online forums, people like they jam it down my throat, like that's the movie to what. That's like, nah. I mean, yeah, okay, but I don't know. It seems like a forced sci-fi movie that like we're trying to be sci-fi and this for like I don't fucking care. I don't know. It just doesn't do it for me. Yeah. X-Men though, I think long term because of where we're at, that the premium /LE does not give enough over the premium that I think the Pro will be the one that you'll see mostly on the secondary market in like a year that most people will be buying because of the market that we're in right now. Premiums lose more even than Pros now. Like if you find any great premium for or find one, if you pay for a great premium more than $8,200 right now, I'm like, that's a bad deal. Like it's kind of like 8,000 is kind of the used market for a home use only perfect condition premium. And
there's just they're available everywhere. There's very little geography constraints, right? Like when people talk about pricing, they rarely take geography into account, right? We talk about this all the time. You see the deals in Florida, right?
Yeah.
Just because you see a game for $7K in Florida doesn't mean there's $7K everywhere, but that doesn't mean they're $9K where you live, right? Maybe it means they're $8. So I think that you're 100% accurate. I think that the shelf on these the ceiling on these massively available games from Stern from the last few years where they sold infinite of them. I think we'll start to see Godzilla crash. Just too many of them. Yeah. So I think that is very interesting. And I think the Pros just have a shorter distance to fall. And you look at, I'll probably own an X-Men Pro. And if a Pro is good, it's just hard. At some point, there is a floor to the price of a Pro. Like if you, Jason, could get an X-Men Pro near you, right? Like near you, and it was $5,400, let's say, or $5,000 just because it's a round number. Like you would be pretty excited.
5,400 is what I used to remember. I think maybe that was more the 4,400. It was either 5,400 or 4,400. It was the magic number for a used Pro where I was like, okay, that's safe. I'll drive a couple hours. You know, I say lose, but you know what I mean? Like I might sell it for a couple hundred less, or I might sell it for exactly that. That is the safe price. So yeah, like,
but you'd feel good about the whole endeavor, right? And that's $1,600, right? If you buy a brand new premium for $9,500, if you pay that price, like you're gonna lose. I would say the starting point is $1,000. Like that's the starting point. You've now lost $1,000.
The starting point in my most recent scientific proof was Jaws, brand new, out of the box, premium. I struggled to sell it for, I think I sold it for 84, maybe 83, and I was like 50 plays. Keith Owen, all that kind of stuff, and
I think it was a slow starter.
Yeah, it's. I went the other day. There's your X-Men, there's your Avatar. Let's just get out of that. Talk about pinball. I went the other day to Bad Penny to play some pinball. They have most games that anyone would want to play except for Elton John. Everything else is basically there. Finally got to play John Wick. Not impressed, really. It was fine, but it was a premium. Ellie, it was fine. I played Labyrinth again. Fine. I played Foo Fighters again just to like tickle it. Same as you. I'm like, I got my ass kicked, but I remember how much I still love that game. And then some Walking Dead, actually Marvel vs. Capcom, some Mortal Kombat 3, some arcade shit. But these guys were just hogging Jaws LE, and all I really wanted to play was Jaws again. That's a slow burn. And aside from oops all airballs, which there is still tons of airballs in that game, still for a lot of people, and that sucks. There's a lot to that game where I like X-Men as a theme way more than Jaws. And I think Jaws to me, like the theme is almost a hindrance. I don't hate it, but I'm like, I don't fucking care. But the game is still Keith Elwin, and man, that guy knows how to make good gameplay code. He really does.
Yeah, I think it's crazy how much I like Jaws and how little I've connected with any other Keith Elwin games. so you're speaking directly to me. I do think my game does play really well. I've spent a lot of time on it, and it's in my house, right? So I think location's going to be more of a challenge. And some people have a really hard time getting it dialed in. It reminds me of Stranger Things or some of these other games that have been hard to dial in.
Mine was hard.
But oh yeah,
to
you
dial
had
in.
a hell of a time.
Thanks, Stern.
And I get that. All those concerns are 100% valid. But at the end of the day, the game is phenomenal. I mean, the game is so unbelievably good. It is a longer playing game, but
Yeah,
I
really is.
really, man, do I love Jaws. It is shocking how high it has moved up my personal favorite list when I don't personally love any Elwins as much as everyone else, right? I appreciate them for what they are. I like a Jurassic Park, I'd say probably the most from him after Jaws, but the difference for me personally between Jaws and Jurassic Park is pretty large. The game is unbelievably good. And then they hit you with this like Jaws the Revenge, where they're like, hey, do you want a completely different game? For free?
And how is that?
It is kind of awesome in the sense that, like, man, that they hit you right in the nostalgia with those sound effects and the graphics. They are immediately endearing in just the best way. I love the package of what they're doing, and the rules are really different and really interesting. So it plays like a completely different game, which means you have to kind of understand and get used to what it's trying to get you to do, where you're trying to eat swimmers. And I do like it. I haven't played it as much as just Jaws, obviously, but I really like what they're doing. I wish they did it more with everything. And it's the type of thing that I think everybody's been afraid that they'll try to charge money for. And the fact that it's just in the game and they're just giving it to you for free, I think you do have to give Stern some credit, right? Which I hate to say.
Well,
but
I mean, yeah,
they deserve it, right? Like it's a whole new fun mode. It's like, and it's very different than when they've done this in the past, right? Because Keith has some history of this, right? Like a Escape Nublar. How you can play that like from the starting point in so there's some of that, but it's in the game. And this is just so different than the Jaws game because you play as the shark and you eat swimmers and you try to eat boats, and it just feels like a completely different game. And that's a good thing, right? You want more ways to experience your pinball machine.
Yeah, fuck. Yeah, you're not asking me this question, but I'm asking myself this question. If I was to buy any relatively new game right now, I think it would be Jaws again over everything, even over X-Men. I mean, I haven't played X-Men, but it's a Jaws. I just,
You can't go wrong with that sentiment because at the end of the day, Jaws is a lot further along. It's a more complete game right now. You get it out of the box, you play it. It's a complete game. X-Men, look how long Foo Fighters took to get there. I think that people need to get back to this reality.
Say, though, when Foo Fighters came out, I thought it was already good enough. Like, because that game was I bought it like
it is
day one, and it was already as good as I needed it to be. So that when I haven't even played it since they updated everything.
Yeah, that's right. Update. You haven't played it since the huge updates.
No, and I loved it before that. So I don't think that the argument of, the code's so new, not yours specifically, but all the time with people like, oh, yeah, but I don't know. You can do it right.
You can if you have a good, strong base, right? There's different levels to this. I think Foo was great at launch.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I love the core game. But, like Deadpool was really bad.
Foo Fighters, first and foremost. Awful. Yeah, well, I'm saying you could turn all the lights off, turn the audio off, and like Foo Fighters, I want to shoot anyways. It's just a phenomenal, fun game to shoot.
It's a great game. I mean, I really do love my collection right now. And it's mostly because, I have a Foo Fighters and a Jaws, and those just keep moving up. Like they just keep getting higher in my personal list of like, man, enough where like Foo Fighters was basically one of my favorite games ever made. And now I'm stuck in that debate where I'm like, I don't have a ton of recency bias at this point, and Jaws is just Man, does that do it for me? I don't have any explanation why. It's just phenomenal. And I know people love the Pro, and I actually like the Pro of Jaws quite a bit.
I've played the Pro quite a bit.
The premium. I'm not an upper playfield guy. I say this all the time when we're talking, but like I gotta have that upper playfield. There's too much there. There's too many ball paths, too much variance. It kills it for me. I need the upper playfield.
More than anything, I need the Shark Bash toy because on the Pro, every hit you need to do is those Optos hits, which is like not consistent, especially in the when you're capturing a shark during the bounty hunt or whatever. You know, you need to hit a shot and then hit the shark, hit a shot, hit the shark. So if you're doing all that, no, well, on the Pro, that means your shot to the center to the whatever has to be perfect enough to get that opto versus on the premium LE, you just hit the bash toy, which is like you just glance it and it registers. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I have a strong opinion on Foo Fighters, right? Where like I need the premium over the Pro as well, but I like the Foo Fighters Pro more than I like the Jaws Pro in comparison, right? Because they're all good.
Yeah. I guess I'm the opposite. I could take
you like Jaws Pro more than Foo Pro?
Yeah, I love the upper playfield on Foo Pro Premium, and for some reason the 3D sculpted alien ship does it for me on the Premium. I don't know. It's like the only game where I actually give a shit about the 3D sculpt. I don't know why.
Yeah, well, it's weird. I have those two games, and I have Star Wars Pro in between them, and like I wouldn't switch it to a Premium. So like clearly, I don't have a bias, right?
No.
Like,
I don't want a Star Wars Premium. Yuck.
Yeah, I want Star Wars Pro, man.
Star Wars Pro, Black Knight Sword of Rage Pro, Game of Thrones Pro, Walking Dead Pro.
Just listening to games I want.
I think those are all actual better. Yeah, that's the other game. Close second between Jaws would be another Walking Dead. Man, fucking game's so good.
By the way, quick question while we're kind of wrapping things up here. Do you feel like this X-Men should have been Spike 3? Because I feel like if this was Spike 3, it would be just the cherry on top of a just fucking hell of a go.
Because what I think is going to happen is Metallica, maybe I almost think it's a stronger theme. I mean, it's not, but almost in the pinball. Starting Spike 3 with one of your most popular games and it's Metallica is going to just, I think, just overshadow it. Granted, it's a two-flipper fan layout and it's Metallica. It's presumably a very similar game. But to me, moving to Spike 3 with Metallica, where like, you know, people are probably a little more willing to pay because it's a whole new platform. You might not lose as much money. I'm a little more willing to like, all right. And if they don't change the price, like, well, you're literally getting more for your money. A newer system, better speakers, better screen, presumably. I don't think they're going to go backwards. And if it's the same price, like, fuck. I mean, at the same time, X-Men could be, and very likely chance, I play it and be like, oh my God, this is awesome. But from afar, I'm not saying it's bad, or I'm just like, it's not giving it to me. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, hey, let's go do our shitty day job, get to these meetings. Thanks for jumping on here and shooting the shit.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Oh, hey, say happy birthday to the missus for me.
Will do. Yeah, I'll say it for everyone out there who's listening. You all told me to wish her, so thank you. Yeah, I'll tell her. All right, see you, man.
See ya.
When I buy my pinball shit, I buy from flipping out. From toppers, sharp blades,